Yannick Paquette is that he places everything nicely. So that's what you gotta do. We're back. Hey! Welcome to Wulff Den. Today, talking about the house style of comic books, which is the style of the house.
Basically, this really only pertains to Marvel and DC. Both companies have what's called a house style, in that is the particular format of art that they want everything to be, more or less. If you look at promo images for DC heroes or Marvel heroes, those images are always done in what's called the house style, the official style.
So for DC, it is Jim Lee.
It's hands down, 100%, no questions asked.
For
Jim Lee.
For Marvel,
it's
Joe Quesada.
Yes, basically.
Those are both the what are they? What's their title?
Joe Quesada. I don't think he's editor-in-chief. I think he's something higher than that. But Jim Lee is co-publisher.
Oh wow! I thought they were both editor-in-chiefs.
Yeah. Hold on, let me look up.
Is there an art version of editor-in-chief, or is it just the same thing?
I think it's the same thing.
Now, who edits the editor? Is my question.
I think it's because above that, it's the two at least the DC is the two co-publishers, Dan Dio and Jim Lee, and then Jeff Johns, who's chief creative officer.
Maybe nobody edits their stuff anymore, and that's why Superman Unchained wasn't very good.
That's probably it. Yeah, Joe Quesada is also the chief creative officer.
That's what it's called.
He's the Jeff Johns equivalent at Marvel.
That's not typically how they decide the house style. That's just what happened.
If you look at DC Comics specifically, they've been following the house style very closely ever since the launch of the New 52. You look at books like, at least currently, The Flash, Green Lantern. It was recently announced that Wonder Woman will be drawn by David Finch. Anything Jim Lee draws, obviously. They all fit into a particular mold where they have a very similar look and aesthetic to them. Like a lot of heavy detail, a lot of times unnecessary detail on the costumes. Right. Everything's colored by Alex Sinclair.
You talking about the DC house style?
Yeah, DC house style.
Lots of
cross-hatching. Very serious, stern, I want to say realistic faces.
Right.
Things like that. Whereas you look at Marvel, now they have a house style, but they've been sort of straying from it recently, because you have people like Humberto Ramos who's doing Spider-Man. It's all very cartoony and stylized. You have somebody like David Aja doing Hawkeye, which is very minimalistic and solid colors.
I love David Aja.
Yeah.
But he took on that style just for Hawkeye.
Yeah, and it takes too long for those books to come out.
His normal style is the house style.
Yeah. Also, Scotty Young, who's doing Rocket Raccoon and did all those Wizard of Oz books. That's very super deformed, things like that.
I think a lot of it is the it's not just the house style; it's the style of comics right now. Is Jim Lee, Joe Quesada, that type of artwork. And that's why they're both chief creative officers, because they pioneered this new style.
But is it necessarily a good thing? Because
I never said it was a good thing.
You look at Marvel, they have all their books are starting to look a lot different from each other. Whereas you look at DC and everything looks exactly the same. Outside of a handful.
DC's a lot worse with it.
Yeah.
DC takes it way too far. The house style.
Because
even stuff like Animal Man.
Yeah.
Animal Man, the New 52, when it launched, Animal Man, that was kind of the house style, but they had so much weird stuff going on with it that it broke out of it.
Yeah.
So.
Because the only books right now, as of this recording, that don't fit the house style, I would say, Wonder Woman by Cliff Chiang. Illustrated by Cliff Chiang, Detective Comics illustrated by Francis Manapul, and
Francis Manapul is getting he's got his own style.
Yeah,
it's getting really big. He used to be house style. Now he does this. He does this wash.
Some of his earliest stuff at DC was Adventure Comics with Superboy, and that wasn't the house style. It was closer to what he's doing now, all the wash stuff.
You know what it was? I used to think he did Flashpoint. He didn't do Flashpoint.
He didn't do Flashpoint. That was Andy Kubert,
Yeah.
which fits the house style.
He does, yeah.
Who else? I guess I would consider Greg Capullo, who does Batman, not the house style.
Yeah, no, he's not.
But I would attribute that more to the colorists, because he's from that school, like that Image Comics school of...
Capallo is along with Todd McFarlane.
Right.
In that whole group.
Yeah.
So he doesn't follow the house style for DC at all, but he's more similar to
the Image.
Marvel Image.
Yeah. What's his name? Chris Samnee doing Daredevil.
Chris Samnee. That's that style.
That's not house style. It's very bright and colorful.
Yeah, that's like an old school style.
Yeah.
With a little bit of a modern like twist. It's old school. It's old school like figures and line work.
Yeah.
But the motion is all very new. And stuff like the way that they move, the way that the story plays out is all very new. Less dialogue, more stuff happening.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
Andrea Sorrentino, that's who's drawing Green Arrow right now. And it's not exactly house style, but it's like closer to house style than...
Does he color it too? Because that looks like a painting.
I think so. It's got a very weird aesthetic for Green Arrow. But
right.
Now, the house style is nothing new to comics. It's been around since forever. You look like every book in the golden age of comics looks exactly the same. Every book in the silver age looks exactly the same. Every book in the modern age looks exactly the same. Well, every book in the bronze age, as to say. But like you look at like the late '80s and books like Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns, the rise of the independent publishers. You know, that was the start of like artists trying to establish their own voice and do their own thing. And for a while, that was sort of permeating into comics, into like DC and Marvel. You look at the Jeff Loeb run of Superman and Batman. He had 3 different illustrators on that book and during his major arcs, and each one was a completely different style from the last. Ed McGuinness was different from Michael Turner, who was different from the next guy.
It all goes with the problem of these comic book companies taking what works well and just beating it until it's mush. Like, it's so refreshing to see some artist with something unique and different. That's why David Aja's Hawkeye blew my mind. It's so simple, but it's so damn good.
Yeah. And for some reason it takes too long to put out.
Yeah, even that.
Basically what I'm trying to get at is it's okay to have a house style, but I think it should become much more practice to let the artist be the artist. Let them be unique. Let each book look different, because that will really help lend a unique voice to every single thing you do. Francis Manapul was doing The Flash when the New 52 launched, and it was like one of the best looking books, let alone one of their best books. But now it's being illustrated by Brett Booth, and it's nothing against Brett Booth, but his stuff looks more like everybody else's in DC. It just robs it of its voice. When Batwoman was originally done by J.H. Williams III and Hayden Blackman, J.H. Williams was the main illustrator, and then I think it was Trevor McCarthy was the backup. They would switch off every other arcs. You can tell it was a dramatic shift whenever it changed, because J.H. Williams, it had, this grandioseness, and every issue looked like a painting.
Batwoman had really nice panel layouts.
Yeah.
They just mushed together.
And Trevor McCarthy is much more in keeping with the house style, and now I think he's the primary illustrator on that book, and it's just, it doesn't look as nice. I mean, no offense to Trevor McCarthy, he tries, and God damn it, he tries, but, it's just, the voice isn't there for that particular book.
Also, Swamp Thing, New 52.
Yeah.
You had Yannick Paquette. Awesome guy.
Yeah.
Great guy. Totally out of his mind. His figures are kind of a house style, but he places them in such a way that they're not, that there's a design to his panel layouts. Sometimes he'll have, for Swamp Thing, he had these everything had flowers going everywhere and vines going everywhere. It was awesome, and it made it not house. So you don't need to have Just wanted to let that sit for a second. So you don't need to have like that. You don't need like such a unique style. You just need like a twist.
Something unique to make you stand out and look different.
Like Francis Matterpolt's is the wash. Without that, he would probably be like it would probably look similar to everybody else's. He would probably look more like Greca Powell or something like that. Well, what was your point in talking about the house style?
I just wanted to bring it to people's attention so that they're aware of like why every book looks the same.
Right.
Is because that they have this one particular look that they want to make the face of their company. But in reality, it's not maybe necessarily the best thing to do because you're limiting your audience by making everything look the same. Everything's going to look homogenous and bland. So the one thing that does stand out, it's unique. You'll help one book rather than all your books. And also too, maybe like if some artist is watching, don't be afraid to push your own image. Don't try to draw like Jim Lee or Joe Quesada. Try and draw like yourself.
Well, I've always heard a lot of artists always struggle with finding their style.
Right.
And I did for a really long time.
Yeah.
But then I heard somebody say, you can't look for a style. You can't try to go for like your own unique style. It just has to happen.
Yeah.
So his drawings are gonna be totally different than my drawings, even if we are trying to go for the same style.
Right.
It's just because I'll draw a head according to how the shoulders fit, and you'll draw a head according to how long the arm is, or something.
Right.
Because of that, you'll have a style.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to have your own unique style, but also don't try too hard.
Yeah, and demand that your comic book publishers, push out more comics with unique and different art styles, because that'll help the industry.
That's why a lot of people read indie books.
Yes.
Because there is no house style.
And the DC's digital stuff doesn't adhere to the house style that much, which is interesting.
It sounds like their digital stuff is just their indie stuff because it's low risk because they don't have to print anything.
Yeah.
Even though they don't pay it, these companies don't pay a damn thing for the prints of their comic books. They pay like a couple of cents each.
Yeah. Anyway.
So what do you guys think? There's a thunderstorm happening.
Yeah, so we're going to wrap this up real quick.
Let us know what you think about comic book artist styles and whatnot, and the house style and whatever. Like and subscribe if you really like it.
Share this video with your friends. Follow us on the Twitters and the Facebooks.
Thank you very much.
Have a good week.
Yes.
So a few weeks ago, they announced who will be getting a star this year on the famous Hollywood Walk of Fame. If you're wondering what this has to do with comics, it's because Bob Kane is getting a star. And if you don't know who he is, we can't be friends.
Everything else on this list are original soundtracks. So number 4, we have The Last of Us. This deserves a really high spot on the list, but you know what? The fact that it's even on the list should be enough for you, so shut up. I'm sorry. I know a bunch of stuff that he doesn't know, and he knows a bunch of stuff that I don't know, so his drawings are going to be totally different from my drawings no matter what, even if we're trying to... Damn it.